Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 23 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 38 today for the second last round of Season 2 at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It's our classic ending to a custom calendar season, Jeddah into Yas Marina. I feel like the most intense ending ever because Jeddah is just so mad on the F1 game. Always an intense race, chaotic, safety cars in the past galore, and maybe even on this game it'll be now red flags galore as well, and it's certainly a spicy way to set up the final round of the championship. We go in with the lead of the Drivers' Championship and Constructors to Red Bull and Ferrari. Lando Norris in second, Leclerc in third, and Leclerc obviously fell away a bit in the previous episode of the Brazilian Grand Prix. If you haven't seen that, by the way, be sure to go check that one out because we had a photo finish results for the sprint race, and then, my word, Lando Norris winning the Brazilian Grand Prix, the full one, with very cheeky and I still feel like dirty, underhanded tactics as Liam Lawson in the Williams, a former Red Bull Academy driver, span it because he was still on inters out on a dry track, and that allowed Lando to get a free pit stop under a safety car and go from outside the top 10 to P1 and then just shot off into the distance and won the race. So I'm still a little bit salty about that, but it means he has closed up a little bit into the second last race here. And the other caveat is our engine got a little bit too warm. The internal combustion engine, the ICE, you can see, you saw on that page, all of them are now yellow and worn out, so we have to take a penalty for that. And to be honest, our gearboxes, we've got two of them left that are kind of lime green, but both of them are 52%, so probably by the time we get to the end of Jeddah, they'll be worn out to a point where I'm not confident of us not having a gearbox issue then in Yas Marina if we take one of them in. So I think we're going to look at taking two penalties for the ICE and the gearbox. Unfortunately, we'll kind of confirm that for you into the race weekend, but at the same time as well, we've got no upgrades on the way until Yas Marina, that ultimate chassis upgrade, and that's it, because there is just not enough time in the season to get any of the other upgrades going. Obviously, we've only had spec 2 on the aeros, and you know, we've had no quality control, so the failure rate was so high. So we've been plateauing ever since the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Thankfully though, into Jeddah, the only team that seems to have made a significant improvement is McLaren. The rest of the grid have plateaued and not brought any upgrades to Jeddah, so that's good news for us. Who knows what's going to be the case into the last race at Abu Dhabi, but to be fair, it might not matter, because look at the advantage Red Bull have. They've got the gap from them to Aston Martin is pretty much the spread from Aston down to McLaren, which is a little worrying, you know, and we saw how rapid Lando was in clean air at Sao Paulo. So we need to really put prayers that Lando's going to be in some traffic, doesn't get pole position in qualifying, because we're going to be towards the back of the grid, and so we need others to perform to slow him down. Because if he goes on to win this one, and we're recovering for just a couple of points from the back, because we know on this year's game, it's actually quite difficult now, properly, like in real life, to actually always guarantee yourself a good position coming back from the back of the grid, especially when the field spread's so high. It's such a competitive grid. It's going to be difficult. It's not a nailed-on thing that I can even, you know, go for like a top 5 even around here. I mean, I'm hoping so, because I've always gone well around Jeddah. You can do plenty of overtaking, but at the same time, like I said, because it's chaotic, a safety car, a red flag, a crash could be in amongst it all and could send us sideways in terms of that recovery. But right now, in Q1, just trying to do the best we can. I want to try and get into Q3 just to maybe ruffle some feathers. You know, there's a tiny chance of knocking out Lando in Q3. I don't think that's going to happen, but if there's half a chance of knocking someone important out into Q3, I'll do it. So we're going to go all the way to Q3 just to also assess the pace that we've got in the car, really. So this is our second flying lap that was in Q1. That gets us up into second place. Eventually it'll be P4. That's a bit worrying and ominous. Lando's P1, Verstappen P2. It's a 1-2 Red Bull. One big name that has been knocked out, my word, Leclerc. He had a shocker in Brazil to lose out a lot of points and get himself out the championship contention, and now he's knocked out in Q1. It's complete capitulation by Leclerc and Ferrari. They have really fumbled the bag. I really thought with Leclerc's 3 podiums in a row, he was going to rocket to be a big challenger, and as quick as he came into the championship fight, he's gone out of the championship fight basically there, as we're now into Q2. Like I said, trying to get into the top 10 shootout just to ruffle some feathers really. Early doors, this first flying lap wasn't too great, bit of a banker lap. I think we can do better, and we have already done better in the first couple of corners, gaining about 1.5 tenths, and then by the end of the lap it'll be 3 to 4 tenths through the final bend. We're much better out the final corner than we are on that first flying lap. So it's a purple first sector, green the second, just over 6 tenths gained, and that gets us up into P1, and we're gonna stay there into the top 10 shootout. Now, Lando did make it through into the top 10 shootout, so yeah, that's unfortunate. I was hoping maybe we could do something, but really, the only big name that has been knocked out is the retiring Lewis Hamilton P14 there, but our main rival is going to be in the top 10 shootout, and this is where our progress ends, because there's no point wearing out the car anymore than we need to. That ICE, we know it has massive wear. I want to have the freshest engine possible at Abu Dhabi, so we're going to just take a breather and just watch qualifying, because we're not going to be in the top 10 either way, you know, with our penalties basically. You saw there, it's going to be a back of the grid basically, depending on if any other people have back of the grid. So we're now watching qualifying here. At the moment, Piastri's P3. He is flying once again in the McLaren, just like he was at Sao Paulo, remember. Lando's P4 at the moment. I believe Verstappen is in P1, so Red Bull definitely have the pace to be on pole. Ricciardo's not really shown up too much. P6 at the moment, could be lower because other people are going quicker, namely Russell and Piastri, and we move on to the onboard of Piastri through the final straight to the line. He's P3 right now. He elevates himself to the front row. It's second place for Piastri. Alonso on the second row alongside Gasly, and Ricciardo moves down to P9, but Lando Norris is down in P7. That's good. That's good for us. He really didn't put it together, because Verstappen, his teammate, the Red Bull driver who's really not been on form this entire season since he got beaten by Hamilton to that title in Season 1, he's the one on pole position. It's the wrong Red Bull for them at the top there, so that's good. I don't mind if Verstappen drives off into the distance, but Lando, he's in traffic, and we saw in Las Vegas and in previous races that Red Bull car doesn't really like traffic too much, so that's good for us. We're P10, but that's going to be much lower with the penalties, but that's okay. We can work with that, hopefully, and I'm feeling a bit more confident about this recovery drive. We just need to hope that Lando doesn't get a great start and cut through, because if he gets into a top 5, then maybe the field spreads out a little bit, and who knows. Also, like I said, we've got safety cars, red flags, etc. that could mix it up. So let's see. Let's go to the grid. This is an important race, and it's got to be a big comeback drive. Let's go to the grid.
So here we are then, welcoming you today to one of the jewels of the Arab world, Jeddah, one of the biggest cities in Saudi Arabia, second only to Riyadh, gateway to Mecca, and one of the biggest ports in the region. And now, host to the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah street circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Fernando Alonso completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Gasly, Russell, Norris, Oscar Piastri, Sainz, Bottas, Ocon, Perez, Hamilton, Magnussen, Leclerc, Sargent, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, Joe, Stroll, Albon, Ricciardo, and the owner-driver rounds off the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Joining me for the Grand Prix once again is none other than Anthony Davidson. They've been involved in a number of costly incidents lately. That's got to affect their mindset going into this race.
Certainly confidence is an important factor. And every time you're involved in an incident, it's not just the car you damage, but that confidence as well. But all the top racing drivers are able to tune that out when the race gets underway and focus on the job at hand.
Okay, absolute ropes for Arab Archer Racing then, it would seem. Ricciardo is alongside us on the last row. So we've been talking non-stop about the Drivers' Championship fight versus Lando. Remember, there's still a Constructors fight, and with both of us at the back of the grid and a Red Bull on pole, and Lando got elevated to P5 because of other grid penalties, this is a bit ropey maybe now. My confidence has been shaken, not just for the drivers, because now Lando starts inside the top 5, so he's got a better chance to even go towards a podium now. But as a team, we both need to recover well, because if Red Bull get like even a double top 5 and we're one car in the points, one not, that could easily turn the tide and mean Red Bull or Ferrari, you know, depending on what they do, could be leading the Constructors going to Abu Dhabi. So this is a big race, not only for ourselves as an individual, but also as a team going for our first Constructors title as we go to 5 red lights. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is underway. It's the second last race of the season and everything is on the line, and we're not going to have such a great start getting squeezed by Albon. We're going to actually make the move to the inside still. Ricciardo's gone down the inside of both of us, and ironically he's actually had the better first few turns as we end up in P21. Ricciardo ahead of me in P20, so not the electric start I was hoping for, but Albon made things difficult for us with that squeeze towards the wall. He's one of the drivers as well who had a grid penalty along with myself and Ricciardo. Leclerc actually, with all the grid penalties added in, got elevated to P13 as Verstappen leads the way from Alonso, Gasly, Russell and Sainz is P5, and Norris is down to P8. What a result. Okay, what's happened there? He started P5 and he's down behind both McLaren cars. And this is what happened then. It was a pretty poor start, a really poor start. He got completely jumped by the Ferrari into turn 1, and then he got overtaken by both McLarens on the outside. Lando maybe feeling the pressure, wanting to keep it clean and steady, knowing that he just has to have a clean race maybe to finish ahead of me. He's taken it a bit too literally there. Both McLarens jumping him after Piastri didn't even start on the front row because he had a penalty himself, so he was actually behind Lando then. But yeah, so Lando taking it very, very cautiously, which is good news for us. So he's down to P8. He's got 2 pretty quick McLarens ahead of him now because McLaren have had a resurgence. So that's good news for us. And right at the moment, we're just focusing now, though, on our own battle. And we'll worry about Lando later in the race because, honestly, right now, it's just about trying to cut through this traffic. And that includes our teammate, who we dummy a little bit with the switch from the right to the left to go round the outside. And now we've got Joe, Lawson and Sonoda all close together. We're on the medium compound tyre. A lot of them are on softs ahead of us, so we're looking to go longer in this race. And then actually my strategy is going to be ending on the soft tyre. I want to be rapid at the end. I don't know what others are doing. Some have also started on mediums in the top 10, including Lando Norris. Whether they go into hards or not, I don't know, but we're going to make a bloody lovely double overtake on Lawson and Joe. They're too busy squabbling amongst each other, and we just get down the inside of the banking and then round the outside for that next right-hander. A little bit awkward and close to Lawson, the man who obviously spanned last race and caused all that havoc with the safety car. We're up to P18 on lap 2. Verstappen, meanwhile, leads the way by 1.9 seconds. He's on the softs, others behind him on the mediums. So Verstappen is using the soft compound to run away with this Grand Prix, it would seem, early on in the first stint, as Norris now looking to overtake his former teammate from McLaren. It's Piastri versus Norris, McLaren versus Red Bull these days in Season 2, and Norris is going to just edge ahead, but the McLaren seems to be pretty darn quick in a straight line. They're actually very equally matched as they go into turn 1. Piastri backs out of it, and Norris is up into P7. Is that the beginning of Lando's charge to make up for that poor start as Sonoda has his rear end wag away like a dog's tail as we open up DRS? He's going to squeeze us, and we're having to stay very committed there and not wanting to blink and keep our foot on the loud pedal. as Tsunoda was defending really quite aggressively, because I wanted to go to the right-hand side, and he said no, and he almost didn't let us go to the inside there. So we need to watch it. As much as I want to make aggressive moves, you can see the cars around us are also being very aggressive, as it's 3 wide between Williams, Sauber, and Haas. Hulkenberg, the better of the 3. We've got Sargent now squeezed out in the Haas, and we're going to get him easily to the inside. But we want to make aggressive moves, but we need to also keep it clean. We cannot afford any damage, and it looks like all these guys, even the ones racing for no points, are being so punchy, as we're seeing some great action already here in Jeddah so early on. 4 laps in. Stroll on the outside, a little bit of tyre banging between him and Hulkenberg. That's going to slow the Canadian up, and we're going to get a great launch to make another double pass down this main straight. We're loving this DRS zone here. Our DRS is working so well down this straight. I think our setup's pinpoint accurate in terms of just enough downforce for the corners, and then still great in a straight line as we're up into P14. So this is more like it, making good progress. At this rate, I think we'll get into the top 10 by about lap 10, I would say, which is pretty good. I think that we can work with that, as we're going to fly past Kevin Magnussen, and up ahead we've got Leclerc, who's stuck in P12 in traffic, and a big train ahead of him of an Alpine, Mercedes, and the other AlphaTauri, I think that is, as Magnussen is actually going to come back at us. We're not wanting to overuse the battery, because I want to save for later in the race. So we had to use a little bit into turn 1 just to make sure we defend, and we had to get the elbow out to squeeze Magnussen to make sure he doesn't overtake us, and that's probably more the soft compound coming into play for him. I would say right about now, lap 8, as we catch this train of Leclerc, Ocon, and Perez in the AlphaTauri, these softs should be starting to wear out now. So I think slowly we're going to be on the better race tyre. The same for the top 5 or mediums behind Verstappen, as we close up to Leclerc, oh so close to his rear end, but just wanting to be patient and wait for the right moment to make a move, because he's got his eyes on Ocon. Can we try and catch one of them napping? Ocon actually goes for a move on Perez instead. Leclerc is boxed in, but he's also trying to make a move on Perez, and we have to give him a bit of room, because there would have been definite contact there, I feel, if we committed to that. And we actually do try and go switch from right to left, and it's oh so close, as we're inches away from making some contact with Leclerc's car, as we've both got DRS. Both of us want to overtake the cars ahead of us, but we're also concerned with each other, and Leclerc does really well to defend on the inside, gets the elbow out. We get on the curb a little bit, not the best acceleration, and the Ferrari is ahead, I think, about a dive to the inside, but that Ferrari, it's not like other cars. It's just a little bit too quick. I feel like he would have squeezed this in, and Leclerc seemingly very defiant, as we now watch the lead, and look at this, Russell flying on the mediums. Those softs have gone off a cliff for Verstappen. He was 2 seconds ahead earlier in the race, and now George Russell in the Mercedes is looking to make the move. Mercedes did look a lot quicker in Sao Paulo in the sprint. They both fell away in the real race, but this is showing that Mercedes are actually coming in with some late season pace here, and Russell is going to get up into the lead of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, as we see absolute chaos at the last corner on lap 9. The two McLarens have made contact, as they were both trying to overtake Lando Norris and battling Hamilton, and Piastri's come in with a front wing off. Bottas actually comes away unscathed. It was actually 2 of Piastri's end plates that came off, as we see Gasly now in the Alpine having a go at Verstappen, just showing how quickly those softs are wearing away. Russell leading now by 2.1, just as Verstappen was before his tyres went off. And the fact the Alpines are having a go at him on the mediums is really showing that maybe now the medium tyre runners are going to reap the benefits of being a bit slower at the start of the race. And that's hopefully going to be music to my ears, as we're looking to catch Leclerc, but having been, squeezed out a little bit and defended hard, we're still trying to actually catch up that time. We're half a second behind, but Leclerc is now going for a move on Perez. This is going to get a bit dicey on the outside. Is he going to pull this off on the outside? Oh, great move for the Ferrari. Perez is now slow, and we're just going to make the move there. Inches away from making contact with the AlphaTauri in the wall. And the same here now with Leclerc. Leclerc adamant about not giving us room on the inside, and now he's made contact with us, as he definitely went a bit too deep there on purpose to just give me the cold shoulder. Leclerc, he's not in the championship fight anymore, really, but he is adamant he's going to fight me. He's almost like doing a favour to his old pal Lando Norris here in the Ferrari, as we go again and we make contact, banging tyres, and the Ferrari still maintains track position as we re-overtook Perez on the main straight, going for the move on the outside. We've double locked up. Oh, bloody hell. A disaster there. Double lock up from us. We just went way too quick into that left-hander. I was so eager to get the move done on Leclerc there, and we've just bottled it. We've made a mistake. It's a big one there, and we've lost, well, a second or more to Leclerc now, and we've got to re-overtake Perez before we even think about getting towards Leclerc. Leclerc, he may not be, you know, mathematically, I think he's still in it maybe, but he's not fully actually in the fight, you feel. But he's certainly making himself known and a threat and an obstacle in the fight nonetheless with myself versus Lando as we make a nice move on Perez, a pretty desperate one to just get ahead and get that clean air as Leclerc comes in off those soft tyres. Ocon in, Bottas, Hamilton, Verstappen all in. So it's going to be myself up to P6, and look at that. Lando's the next car up the road, 7 seconds. That's the gap we've got to bridge. That's the gap we've lost to Lando, having fought through all this traffic. Ricciardo is in clean air now ahead of Albon, both of them continuing on in P7 and 8. Ricciardo's not looked too hot in this Grand Prix though, I'm not going to lie. He's quite far away from it, so I don't know where he's going to end up. I don't know if it'll be points, so it may just be me versus the 2 Red Bulls in the Constructors' battle as we watch Gasly in second, Russell loving life in first place, but eventually those guys are going to start to come in. But I continue on because, as you can see on the top left, they're coming in for hard tyres, all of them, whereas I want to go on softs. I don't know about Ricciardo, but he stayed out. I really wanted him to come in. This is going to be frustrating because I don't want to double stack Ricciardo because this is equally about the team as it is me, and I don't want to hinder his race whatsoever. He's already struggled in this race, so we are forced to continue for 1 lap longer than I want to because he only comes in now, and my tyres are going off. You saw that lock up into turn 1, so we're going to lose time just to allow Ricciardo a clean pit stop there. So never say I'm not a good teammate. I think we've been very good with Ricciardo this season, and this is the proof there. So we come in eventually, lap 16. You know, obviously the top 4 are through. Where is Lando gonna be? There he goes through now in towards turn 1 as we come in for the soft compound of tyre. It's time for oh god, slow pit stop, That front left tyre was very slow to go on. It's a 4.7 pit stop. So we're on the soft compound. We're going to be rapid, but now the cards are stacked against us. We lost time going 1 lap longer. We lost 2+ seconds with that pit stop error, and we've come out in P18. We've got 9 laps to go, and we're P18. This has got to be the stint of the century. And to be fair, I'm feeling good about doing that stint because this car, compared to those worn mediums, it feels like an unreal monster. This thing at the moment is on rails around Jeddah. And I think from qualifying you saw we did have the pace to be the quickest car around this circuit. I've really grown to love Jeddah, and we're going to make such a late dive bomb on Sano. That was filthy. We were like 3 cars back as we crossed the finish line for the new lap there, and we somehow made it work. Such is the pace difference of the soft to the hard compound tyre, using that delta time difference to good use as we see Norris in P6, but it may be P7 as Sainz is round the outside. No, Lando defends well, and it's going to be a drag race now to turn 1 onto lap 18. The Ferrari's going to have it with DRS, and then there comes the McLaren as well, a Piastri. Lando may just lose 2 positions instead of 1, down from P6 to maybe P8. Can Piastri get that on the exit? No. Unfortunately for us, he's going to remain in P7, but that's still, you know, that's not too bad. P7, if we can recover to a P10, P9, that's all right. I could maybe live with that, but we need to actually do that. Saying it's one thing, doing it's another, and you can see the gap to like the Ferrari of Leclerc is quite some way ahead of us. So we have a lot of work to do as we make easy work of Stroll. And to be fair, sitting purples so far, lap 18 is probably the first time we've not set purples as the soft tyres start to wear out a little bit. And they're not exactly the same tyres we started on, but there's still so much pace in them as we look to make another double pass on Hulkenberg and Magnussen. It's a late turn. And we've actually nailed that. We kept that within the white lines. That was perfect. this car is loving this set of tyres, especially versus all medium tyre runners and hard tyre runners even as well. There'll be some more hard tyre runners in the top 10. All these guys are on mediums as we sail past Sergio Perez. And now we've got, what, 3.13 seconds to Bottas in P11. Leclerc then a couple of tenths ahead, who's fighting Ocon, and by the time we catch them, Leclerc's actually overtaken both of them. So Leclerc's in P9, Bottas is P10. Those are points right there. We've got to get past Ocon first, and then we can get into the points and do some damage limitation versus our championship rival into turn 1. Didn't feel like making a dive that time, because now, you know, a couple of laps in, lap 21, these tyres are a bit too worn out to make a huge lunge at turn 1, but they're still good enough to get the acceleration to make this move just before we get into the S section in Sector 1, and we're up into P11. Now on the flying fin in the McLaren, gaining with DRS. We're going to make the move actually into the quick chicane. I've decided commit to this move on the inside. Bottas is actually doing his hardest to stay side by side, but we squeeze him out. Meanwhile, we've got Verstappen v Hamilton at Jeddah. This could get frosty. Hamilton on the inside, they make a little bit of contact. Hamilton shoves Verstappen towards the wall. He remains in second place. It's a Mercedes 1-2 right now. Hamilton flying in this second part of the race. Mercedes' pace is electric at this part of the season, but Verstappen with DRS gets back into P1. Oh, Russell's off. I think he's got a car issue because he's just stopped on circuit in the inside of turn 1, and that is going to call out a late safety car, which is going to turn this into a 2-lap sprint, I think, by the time it comes in. But Russell with a mechanical issue of some kind, because he just parked it at turn 1 like he was retiring, and that means Verstappen, after all of that Mercedes pace, will retake the lead. But it's Hamilton v Verstappen for first place at Jeddah. How exciting for us. P9 behind Leclerc, and a good chance now to maybe even catch Lando Norris. On the safety car restart, we don't go for the dive on Leclerc though, because I knew that illegal overtake thing was going to come into play off the restart, and I don't want to take any risks because we are in P9, and I've got that confidence that we should be able to clear Leclerc, Piastri, even get onto the back of Sainz anyway without taking too many risks. And we do have a slight cushion in points, so we don't need to take too much of a risk. All we need to do is get within like a position or two of Lando, and I'll be happy going into the final race of the season, as we're going to make that move on Leclerc on the outside of this corner. Leclerc once again makes things difficult for ourselves. He's really been so aggressive with us this entire race. He's really forcing his way to be someone we need to think about in this title fight. Even if he's maybe not really in it properly still, he's determined to still fight us, as we just can't get past. We don't have that grip. That Ferrari actually now probably has the better tyre wear on the mediums versus my softs, but we're going to stay committed, stay to the course on the left-hand side with plenty of battery to overtake Leclerc eventually, squeeze him out for good measure to get up into P8. And now with over 60% battery, we're going to fly towards Piastri to try and get one last overtake done in this race. Lando Norris is going to finish in P5, it seems, for Red Bull Racing, so he is going to get some points on us, but we're going to reduce the points a little bit further on the last sector, getting that P7 for our number 7 on the car. I'm hoping this will be a good lucky omen for us. Piastri doesn't want to give up the inside. We go to the outside, and we're going to brake as late as we can. Piastri fights that. This is our old teammate we're fighting into the last corner, but we get it. We get the job done, and we're going to be P7 on the road with the fast lap of the Grand Prix as well. I think all things considered, that's a very good recovery. Lando P5, that's not too many points he's gained on us. Verstappen, after all the misery this season, goes on to win another race this year at Jeddah.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently, and it's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be so proud of the victory they've secured here.
Verstappen proving he's still got it in that Red Bull when everything's clicking for him. P1, Hamilton, P2 in his second last race ever in Formula 1 here. Pretty good for him. And then Alonso on the podium. And to see Lando not up there is good news for us. I was very worried at some point that he was going to eventually find some pace and get up there. But the fact he's finished P5 and we managed to get P7 just at the end there, that's pretty damn decent. 2 positions behind him, having started literally dead last, is very, very good. He gets 10 points, I get 7. Obviously would have been 6, but I got the fast lap of the Grand Prix, which also counted for something. So he only gains 3 points on us in the championship. So going into the final race of the season next episode, it's myself versus Lando Norris. Leclerc is mathematically out of it. It is just us 2 Brits, Aarava Archer Racing versus Red Bull, 6 points in it, which means if Lando goes for the race win, I have to go for the race win, because obviously you get 7 points for P1 versus P2. So that is going to set up a very interesting finale, and even more so because Ricciardo scored no points today, Verstappen with the win, Lando outscored me by 3, Red Bull smash and grab the lead of the constructors by 8 points going into the final episode. So I have to go for the win if Lando goes for the win for the Drivers' Championship, but really I have to go for the win anyway to try and help our constructors fight, because there's no... We've been leading the constructors for so long. I don't want to lose it in the final race. Ricciardo, he needs to pull up his socks. I need him to perform versus Verstappen next time. So how about that? Red Bull lead in the team championship. We lead in the drivers. It's all set up for a great finale. Red Bull versus ourselves. Let's have it. Guys, if you have enjoyed that one though, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought of the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.